Hi friends, today I'm teaching you how to paint this simple orchid flower using gouache paint. So get your supplies and let's get to it. All right friends, welcome back to another gouache video where we are going to be painting these. Well, we're using this as inspiration. So not necessarily the orchids as they are, but I'm using it in a way that I can, kind of figure out my own style that I'd like to go with. So I have different brushes. You could use a square brush if you wanted. These are from Sarah Burns. I don't have a link. I'll try to link it below if I remember. These are great gouache brushes. A lovely pointed brush. Here's a larger one, 12 and a 6, which are great sizes. If you wanted to do this with a more angular look, you could put these down over here. We're gonna try the round brushes today. So I'm just gonna keep this little guy close by, but we'll start with number 12. So, and this brush had a little bit of blue in it. No worries, probably from the last tutorial. So before we start that, and it rolls off, we're going to spray down our palette. Now, with gouache, I like to use this metal butcher's tray. And like watercolor, you can spray it down and reuse the colors. It's gonna look like watercolor because there's so much water in it. But we can add more paint to make it more opaque and just kind of work with that. So I'm adding some more red. For our lovely blooms here, I think I'm gonna add a little bit of black. And black goes a long way there because it really gets dark fast. So I also wanna add some white, and I'm gonna take the opportunity to use the white here with this clean brush. I'm gonna grab some on my palette. And if you want to grab more gouache, from Amazon or wherever, so that you have a larger tube at home, it's nice to have that. And then we can do a variation of florals, different colors. It's nice to have more white because we end up kind of using a lot of that, mixing our colors, making them lighter. So we're going to start with this guy right here, and we have a petal here at the top. I'm just gonna make that little teardrop shape. And then what we have here, we have 1, 2 on the side, and then 1, 2 here on the sides and the bottom, and 1 at the top. Roughly, that's what we're going for, okay? So adding in those, and I can even lighten it a little bit if I want to, reminding yourself that you can go dark to light, light to dark with gouache. And the reason I'm doing these videos, if you've never seen my gouache videos before, is because I'm simply trying to keep myself accountable to do more with painting gouache. And so I thought, well, what I'm doing is I'm putting this video out there for Patreon, for the patrons that subscribe to my channel and do the whole monthly, the monthly subscription thing. And then a month later, I will release this into the public. So if you're seeing this and you're not part of Patreon, that's what's happened so far. But it's just keeping me accountable because normally I paint with watercolor, and that's just what we do on my channel for the most part. But it's nice to learn and grow and, try to do different things. So we've got a side facing right now. And then there's this interesting one. I don't know if you can see it in the screen, but we're gonna work probably down here. We may not get all the blooms. This is a very large, tall spray of florals. There's a lot happening, which is amazing. I'm gonna put one right here just to cover up that white space, remembering that we have to connect everything with that big stem at the top and all the way to the bottom. All right, so just a little bit here. We've got some pointed marks here, and then maybe a couple more. I love these brushes. They really do a lot with allowing me to paint how I like to paint. I like to paint loose florals, and these brushes are made specifically for gouache. Don't ask me why using these brushes versus using watercolor and all the things. I just know that these are specifically for the medium that I love. I'm just dipping into this. I need to refill this, wash it out, refill it with white, so it's all good. And so I just, I'm using the brushes because I do love Sarah Burns. She is on YouTube. If you've never heard of her, check her out. She does amazing gouache tutorials, paints outside, does watercolor as well. So and she might do some other mediums too, but I think mostly she's known for her gouache tutorials. All right, so this is just, there's so many blooms in here. It's gorgeous. And we are going to do our centers later. And let's go ahead and there's a side facing thing happening here. There's kind of like this little trumpet situation happening. And so I'm just trying to paint what I see, a leaf or a petal right there, and then kind of a thin stem or thin part of the petal, and it's just spraying out like that. Maybe a little bit more of a leaf right there. Then there's another more forward-facing one right here, and so we'll do that same thing we already did, the top petal, and then 2 side ones, and this one might overlap. It is, so that's okay. A little bit of another petal down here, kind of this star shape, really, situation happening, okay? And then we can do, let's do another kind of a side facing right there. 1, 2, and 3. These brushes are so pointed, they're amazing. They really do great work. And there's another one at the top, just a little bit there. So right now, before we add anything else, I want to grab my green. And as you can see, so I've got this is where I try to rinse my brush. It's full of paint, best I can, but you know, if you have dirty water, you're gonna have a dirty brush still. And then I dip it into this one, which is more clean, and try to get it cleaned up even more. Anywho, it's okay if it's in there. I do have my paint separated from warm colors and cool colors. And if you have any colors on your palette, like for example, you could mix primaries together, it'll be fine, it'll be vibrant. You know, your red and your blue and your yellow, mix any of those together, you're gonna get those secondary colors, right, of the green and the orange and the purple. But if you mix together colors that already contain 2 and then the other one contains the 3rd primary, if these 3 primaries are mixed together, they create mud. So we try to keep things separate. It just keeps things a little bit brighter, I guess. And then I grab this green here. These greens on my palette, so I've got this bluish green, turquoise, and then I've got this really brighter than grassy green. I mean, it's a lot happening there. So that's fine. If you want to darken it, you can always add a little bit of red to darken up your green. And that's a lot. See how little you need, and it just really changes it, makes a difference. Now I have a really dark, almost army green color. And so I would say, hey, let me add a little more green back and see what we feel. So I think that's okay. That's gonna work. So I still use my paint pretty thin because I'm a watercolorist, but I can also, you know, add more layers and it's gonna be fine. Add more layers, and if you don't like the green that you have, you can change it up later. So we're just going to assume we're kind of going through like this to connect our stem down, just like so. And we can thicken it if we feel like it's not thick enough. This is reminding me of Christmas, guys. We've got that red, we've got the green. Oh, it's too early. All right, a little connector and then a little bit of a stem there. We want to connect everybody with a nice stem off of that main one, and so we're just going to do that right now. Make sure everybody is part of the family. This one could be just a little bit, you know, curved right there. Maybe it needs to be a little bit thicker. Okay, and just, you know, be methodical. You can be slow about this process. There's no rush. If you are here painting, I'm assuming you've got no place to be, and you can just kind of relax into this process, which is wonderful. It's a beautiful thing. It's nice to take time for yourself to be able to paint and enjoy and have all the pleasure that painting offers. So this one has a leaf on the top. We can do that if you want, or you could put it in the background. I think I will go over the top, and I'm gonna bring my stem all the way down pretty much. So we've got a leaf here, and we are going to just start thick. So pressing down, lots of pressure, making a thick leaf, and then start to let up just easily. That was a little too much. Light pressure until we get to the tip of that leaf, okay? So that's our first leaf here. We're gonna do a few more. So pressing down, lots of pressure here. And we can go behind and just gonna go like that. And then we can add a little bit more. Maybe another one right here, kind of peeking out. Okay, and then this one in our reference photo, we have another one. more rounded at the top, a little bit shorter. Just kind of calling it quits at that point. Okay. All right, so that's good for now. If you want, you can always go and add more paint over the top of this so that you can really see that it is on top and you can't see the flower behind as much. And we might have to do it another time. That's fine because we're working with pretty thin paints. This is a Holbein and it tends to be, in my opinion, pretty thick, and you have to add a good amount of water just to get it to kind of mix around and do all the things you need to do. All right, so we have this red, this lovely red here, and you know, there's more of a pink happening, a mauve. We can take some purple and add that in and kind of see how we feel about it. We can change it up. We don't have to keep it the same. And if we don't like a color we put down, we just wait for it to dry and we just go over it again. All right, so I want to just fancy up these petals a little bit. So I'm going to just start doing that. And I think I might want to make these a little bit more pointed in some ways. So I'm literally just going over and adding some of this color. It's very subtle, but it's gonna give that second layer of color, a little bit extra drama, and I can change up just kind of the orientation of, you know, how my petals are looking as well, if you want to do that. And I like to do this more just to get that second layer of color on there. What's really fun is adding in the the middle details later. I really like that part. There's a little center there. And over here as well, this one's a little bit lighter so you can see more of that contrast. Okay, and I'm just gonna leave it kind of like that for now. And then we're behind, so we're just painting around that green. So I hope you're able to check in with yourself at this point and see, you know, how are you feeling? Are you enjoying this experience? Are you enjoying your painting? If not, kind of check in with, you know, why are you feeling maybe frustrated or not as pleased with the result? And I encourage you to think of, you know, one thing that you might like. Maybe it's the colors, you know, maybe it's your composition. We definitely want to encourage you to continue painting, which means, you know, we want to make you feel excited, you know, about what's going on. And so being able to positively reinforce yourself, you know, that you like something that's happening, or maybe just the fact that you're trying this, you're trying gouache, trying something new, and that's a pretty, you know, exciting step for you. And that could be the encouragement that you need for today to help you want to paint again next time. So I like to encourage myself, I like to encourage other people, just try new things, see what you feel about it, and then, you know, put a little bit of a positive narrative to it, that experience. So positivity is what increases that behavior. Negativity decreases a behavior. And so if you want to increase the behavior, you need to positively reinforce it. And essentially you're punishing that behavior when you're, you know, you have a narrative of like, I hate this doesn't look good, I'm not happy with it. It is that essentially a punishment that is keeping you from wanting to try again next time. So I hope that makes sense. All right, this brush is full of all kinds of stuff. I was just going to rinse that off. I'm gonna stick with my number 6 round now. These little water well things, it's hard for me to follow. I usually just end up dipping one in the other, not really rhyme or reason, because when I'm talking with you guys, I get really excited and into it and I don't necessarily, you know, focus too well on what I'm doing, like painting, yes, but just the other stuff, cleaning my brush and that kind of stuff, not always. All right, so I want to do our middles really light. We're going to try that. So I've got this beautiful mix of kind of that purple and pink, red, with a lot of white. And I just added a bunch of white to my palette from a tube. So we are going to paint in that shape, the middle part of the orchid. So let's just think of a triangle, like a half, kind of a triangle, 2/3 of a triangle right there. And then we have these little parts that kind of go like this and like that. All right. And so for some of these, it's not gonna look the same because the angle's gonna be different. So So we have that right there, pretty thick, like this. And then just a little bit on the side. Okay. Of our little orchids. Orchids are gorgeous. I have had several, I have owned several, and I have killed several. So there's that. It's so sad. I hate to admit it, but yeah. So I have to really work on how I am growing these little guys so that I can nurture them. And it's not like I kill them outright, it's just they never bloomed again. Isn't that sad? They never bloomed again. And so, and right now, sorry, we're doing this kind of little trumpet shape thing, and I'm just adding in some loose brush strokes here. I'm not being, too accurate, I suppose. But I just want to have them have that beautiful center. And then we can do that same little triangle, two-sided triangle here, kind of like that. And then these two little C-curve shapes. Okay. All right. And then over here, this is the side facing. You can't really see any middle. This one has a little bit of a middle right there. And then the petals are covering it. So, and then this one, we'll just give it something. Okay. There we go. I hope your middles are turning out well. I hope you like them. I'm going to grab some more purple. It's so pretty. So pretty. Now we have a lavender. Gorgeous. All right. So I always want to make sure that my paint is thick enough. It's bold enough. All that stuff. I need to add a little bit of water because it's starting to get pretty dry and the paint wasn't moving. So yes, if your paint isn't moving, add more water. If it's too transparent, try to add less water. Next time, add more paint for now. We want more purple. More purple! I just didn't want it to be too dark, but I wanted to have a nice light background, and then we can go over it with a less light one, but it's gonna give some contrast. All right, some really thick paint. If it has some texture because I'm blobbing on the paint, fantastic. I'm all about that, okay? So yeah, gouache is fun, and if you've done acrylic, you can do gouache super easily. Just a little bit of a difference that you're adding water. So this is also called, what is it? Is it not watercolor gouache. It's water soluble, so you can hang out with it with water and it's gonna totally work. If it's more of an acrylic type paint, you cannot add water to it. So make sure it's that water soluble gouache and you're good to go. All right, so we have our lovelies on our paper here. And I added more water to this. And this is a pretty simple, simple thing that we've painted, but I was thinking it might be fun to add a little bit of an outline to our lovely orchid petals. So I'm holding the brush really loosely. I'm just using that tip. It's a very pointed brush that's getting me a really nice result. And I'm just allowing it to be a little wonky, be a little bit wobbly, right? A little wiggly. And adding that in now. And I'm liking that result. So just outlining, giving it just a little bit more personality. Now, if you feel like any of your petals should be more pointed, you could emphasize that right now. Even if your petals are roundy, you could emphasize the pointed part of it. Just add a point, just come to a point and, let it, just run with it. Just run with it. So guys, I do teach watercolor on Patreon, as I said before, and for those of you who are watching when this goes public, we have so much fun doing watercolor, for the most part watercolor, and lots of florals, some landscapes, mostly florals, sometimes some other random things, but yeah, lots of flowers, lots of loose, beautiful, vibrant colors. And so if you're interested in just even trying it out for a week, it's free for a week. And you can click on the link in my description. It's great because it is an awesome way to support my channel, but the big thing for you is you get exclusive tutorials, full length, and I'm trying to add in extra, instructive information. We also have live stream, even art prints are available at different tiers. So there's a lot of stuff. So anyway, description. Check it out if you're interested. All right, so I'm liking just adding in a little bit extra to emphasize these petals, and I might even do a few marks because I can't help myself. I have to add a few marks, so we're just gonna do a little bit, just really quickly, some long ones, some short ones. Just, these are supposed to be cute little baby orchids, you know, nothing too fancy. Just putting those brush strokes down and, you know, running with it. I want you guys to feel the relaxation that comes with painting. And it's supposed to be stress-free, but often it feels stressful because we feel like we have to do it perfectly. And so I'm hoping, my whole wish, my goal is that you can paint stress-free and remind yourself it's supposed to be fun. Everything that you do is practice. We're gonna do a little bit of this. I'm gonna spray this down. So I did spray this down at the beginning. Gouache paints do get dried out. You gotta keep them kind of juicy. And painting is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a beautiful thing. I'm a therapist, and I like to talk about mental health and self-care on my channel when I do my tutorials, because we need to talk more about those things. How can we care for ourselves? How can we, after a stressful day or stressful moment, sit down, take some time. We're just gonna go over this a little bit. You can use the side of your brush if you want, and just emphasize a little bit more of these leaves. How can you take 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is you have in a day or a couple times a week, and just sit down and paint for you? You know, how can you make that happen if you love it, if you're enjoying it? And being able to remind yourself this is practice, it's supposed to be fun, it's not supposed to be stressful. And perfectionism, that's the big thing. Throwing that out the door, it has no place in our life, it has no place in art, because nobody is perfect. So we get stressed out trying to do things perfect, and then we get depressed when we don't do things perfect. So if you can practice not living in perfectionism just for a few moments while you do your art, I promise you that mindset is going to stem into or affect your other life situations in your home, your work life, your friendships, your relationships, all that stuff. Just because you're practicing self-care and calm in your life while you're painting, it's going to reflect in all the things. So we are pretty much done here. I hope this was really fun. I do want to do a little bit of splatter, because splatter is always my favorite. So I think we're going to stick with this lovely purpley color today, just getting some nice watery paint and then just tapping your brush and adding those little splatter marks, a little bit of magic in your blooms. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this really simple, quick tutorial, and I will see you guys soon on the next video.